Have you ever really stopped to think about how a huge public health goal, like, say, wiping out a disease in an entire country, actually happens? It's definitely not by accident. It's kind of like building a skyscraper, right? You can't just show up with a pile of bricks and hope it all works out. Nope. You need a rock-solid plan. You need a blueprint.
So how do they do it? How do you go from this amazing idea on a whiteboard to a real-world program that's actually out there improving and even saving the lives of thousands, maybe even millions of people?
Well, the answer isn't magic. It's that blueprint we were just talking about. And in the world of community health, this blueprint has a name: public health planning. It's the step-by-step, essential process that turns those really ambitious goals into real, measurable, life-changing results.
Okay, so let's dig into why this blueprint is so incredibly important. Every single successful health initiative, everything from a small local clinic to a massive global vaccination campaign, is built on a solid plan. If you don't have one, you're basically flying blind, burning through precious time, money, and energy.
So what does a public health planner actually do? Well, they start by asking some really tough questions, like, what's really happening on the ground right now? What is the specific problem we're trying to fix? What does winning even look like here? And maybe the most important question of all, what's the smartest, most efficient way to get there? It is all about thinking before you act.
And this isn't just guesswork. Not at all. Planners follow a really systematic 8-step process to make sure they've covered all the bases. And get this, it's not just a to-do list you check off. It's a continuous cycle that guides them from that first spark of an idea all the way to a successful project. And then it starts right back at the beginning.
And you can see it right here. This is not a one-and-done kind of deal. It is a loop. The lessons you learn from one project become the starting point for the next one. This creates a system that's always learning, always evolving, and always getting better at what it does.
So the first 5 steps, that's what we can call the blueprint phase. First, you analyze the situation to really get what the problem is. Then, you set super clear goals. After that, you've got to take stock of what you have to work with, your money, your people, your time. And then comes the really hard part: setting priorities. And it's tough because you never have enough resources for everything, so you have to make these difficult calls on where you can make the biggest difference. And finally, you get it all down on paper.
All right, let's move on to the build phase. This is where the plan springs to life. Implementation is all about doing the work, right? But just as important is monitoring, keeping a close eye on how things are going. You're not waiting until the very end, you're watching in real time so you can make changes on the fly. And then finally, there's evaluation. You take a step back and ask that one simple, massive question: did it work? And here it is. This is the secret sauce to the whole thing. That evaluation step doesn't just tell you what happened, it tells you what to do next. Every single win and every single stumble feeds directly back into the analysis for the next go-round. That makes every new plan smarter than the last. That's the power of continuous improvement, right there.
But, having a brilliant plan is one thing. Actually making it happen effectively, that takes the right set of tools. So, let's peek inside the manager's toolkit and see how they make some of these critical decisions.
When your budget is tight, how on earth do you decide where to put your money? Well, planners have 2 main tools for this. There's cost-benefit analysis, or CBA, which tries to put a price tag on literally everything. But how do you put a dollar value on a human life? That's a tough one. And that's where cost-effective analysis, or CEA, is so useful. It measures success in human outcomes, like lives saved or diseases prevented. Which tool you use really depends on the question you need to answer. Now, for those really complicated projects with a million moving parts, you need a detailed roadmap to keep everything from going off the rails. That's where something called network analysis comes in. A really popular version of this is called PERT, and it basically maps out every single task, showing how they're all connected and how long each one is supposed to take.
If you look at this diagram, you can see one path is highlighted. That's what's known as the critical path. It's the longest sequence of tasks from the start of the project to the finish. Any delay on this specific path, even one single day, pushes back the entire project's deadline. This is exactly how managers know where to focus all their attention to keep things running on time.
Okay, so these big picture plans and fancy tools are really powerful. But how does all this stuff actually help real people in their own neighborhoods and villages? Let's zoom in and see how public health planning works right there on the ground.
A really incredible real-world example of this is India's Panchayat Raj system. It's a whole structure of local self-government, and it's designed specifically to bring the power of planning and decision-making right down to the grassroots community level.
It's a three-tiered system. So at the very local level, you have the panchayat for each village. Then for a group or a block of villages, you have the panchayat samiti. And finally, you have the Zilla Parishad at the district level. This whole setup makes sure that the planning is always tied to the actual needs of the people living there, not decided by some official hundreds of miles away.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, a single Panchayat Samiti, that middle tier, is looking after the health and development of somewhere between 80,000 and 120,000 people. Now that is how you take a massive national challenge and make it manageable. You empower local communities to take the lead.
And at the end of the day, this is why it's so important. This system isn't just about being efficient, as this quote really drives home. It's about making democracy stronger from the ground up. It's about giving people a real voice in the decisions that directly affect their own lives and their own health. So, that brings us right back to you. Now that you've seen the blueprint, the tools, and how it all works on the ground, just think about your own community for a second. If you were the one in charge of the plan, what's the one health problem you would tackle first, and why?